Hi, this is James Gordon October Live here for book review. Today's book I'll be reviewing today, The Antigua Progression by Robert Ludlum. This is from Bateman Books, and this was first published by Brandon House in March 1984. This Bateman edition is from April of 1984. This was a disappointing book. I was really bummed when I got to the end of this book, and I was just like, what was it about this book that I selected this as my favorite book by Robert Ludlum? I'm kind of scratching my head as I actually watched my Robert Ludlum appreciation video to see if I could find out if I said something that made this book my favorite. But after I watched it, I didn't even say an answer. What was it, like a year ago on this book, and after I got done reading, I was like, what was it about this book that I liked about it? Like, it had some interesting ideas, some interesting characters, but London fails to go anywhere exciting or make it like, better as the book progresses on. It was just a real slow burn to get through, and the ending was the absolute worst. Just, oh my goodness, just so much drama, characters yelling at each other, running around, and a whole bunch of other shit I didn't like with this book. I was really disappointed with it. I was really hoping this would get better towards the end, but it really didn't. It did have some moments I did like, but I felt, oh man, Robert Ludlum really dropped the ball on this one. Like, he had a good idea, some interesting characters, but failed to go anywhere with it. And I'll explain later. I'll explain later more on my review after why I didn't like this book and the many issues and problems I had with it. All right, on to the book review. Plot: ex-fighter pilot and ex-boxer Joe Traverse is vacationing in Geneva, working as a lawyer who specializes in political cases as Joe's views of his government and politics change after the events during the Vietnam War. While out for a morning walk, he happens to see a friend he has spoken to in 20 years. A very Flower, a covert operative and longtime friend of Joe, has come to him asking for his help. As the two sit at a cafe during coffee, Avery has stumped on by accident a group of high-ranking generals are recruiting young soldiers for a new world order. One of these men is Mad Marcus Delavane. Joe remembers him as he was a highly feared yet powerful general who sent Joe on a suicide mission that nearly cost him his life and escape from a prison camp. However, 7 other soldiers died during his escape and felt responsible for their deaths and was angered when the U.S. government refused to have Delavane tried for his countless death of the men he sent off for his reckless commands. At this moment, Joe became disillusioned with his government. He refused to salute and spits on the courtroom floor in disgust. Avery wants Joe to work a case against these generals since it's too risky to go to the CIA or the White House as these men have connections within their government. Joe is skeptical and isn't pleased when Avery tells him he's already hired him as he's got someone aiding Avery that wants to work with him. Avery will pay him $150,000 if he accepts his case, and if Joe pulls this off, he will be given $1 million as a bonus. However, Joe wants to see the hard evidence that Avery's got but won't share it in a public place or the name of this organization these generals are working for. Avery tells Joe to think it over as he isn't sure he's the right man for the job. After waiting 3 hours for Avery to call, Joe gets a message that something has happened in a hotel where his friend was staying. When Joe rushes over and forces his hotel door open, he finds Avery lying on the floor as his white shirt is covered in blood. Joe rushes over as Avery tells him in his dying words, "They're back. They said it was from Aquitaine." Later on, the police report his friend's death was related to a drug deal gone bad. Joe knows this isn't true, and with nothing to go on, he goes to the island of Mykonos where Avery's contact is waiting for Joe. First, he visits the bank, taking half of the money and giving the teller Joe's account numbers so he can access it in other banks in different countries. The teller then gives Joe a name of Avery's contact, Dr. Edward Bio, and is waiting for him at the beach. When Joe gets there, Dr. Edward holds him at gunpoint and asks if he's carrying a gun, which he replies he isn't, and turns around to show he isn't armed. Dr. Edwards lowers his gun, stating he wanted to make sure it was Joe after hearing news of Avery's death. He gives Joe a list of 5 men who are part of Aquitaine. Deville is the leader of this group. The other men are Jacques Louis Beforier, a World War II French resistance soldier who later joined the OAS after President de Gaulle failed to support his troops during the early years of the Vietnam War and gave Algeria independence and tried to assassinate de Gaulle and came very close of succeeding. Jan van Hederman, a South African general known as the Slayer of Soweto-min. Cham Abrams, a war hero of the Israeli independence, and Erich Leifhelm, a former field marshal and the youngest general to be picked by Hitler. Erich was able to avoid being caught during the Nuremberg trials and immigrated to the States after the fall of Nazi Germany. These men are working together with the goal of a new world order by toppling all world governments and running the world however they want, and they can gain access to any type of weapons they want. Dr. Edwards tells Joe they have taken a cluster bomb along with other types of ammunition and used it in Ulster, killing over 300,000 people as their leaders are in a panic. He adds this is only a test for further violence and war to come. Wanting to avenge the death of his friend, Joe agrees to stop Aquitaine any means necessary and will start with Jacques in France. Dr. Edward also gives Joe another list of extra detail on these men as he wants Joe to find concrete evidence they can use against these men to bring the news to the Justice Department and have all these men arrested or taken down. While traveling to Paris on a Boeing 747, Joe reads more information about Jacques and his background. He was 16 when he joined the French resistance after his father, a general, was killed during the Nazi invasion. Described as a brave and tough soldier that fought for his country. He was rewarded by President de Gaulle after the war and went on to different military posts to continue his support for his nation, but became disillusioned and furious over de Gaulle's actions during the Vietnam War and for granting Algeria independence. Despite failing to assassinate his former president and was captured, yet somehow managed to talk his way out, and de Gaulle allowed Jacques to be pardoned. Now at the age of 59, Jacques is now a director of Juno at Sea, a firm on the Bourse de Verse, Paris Stock Exchange. Joe reads the list of places he visits along the kind of car he rides around in, a dark blue Lincoln Continental. Joe knows someone in Paris that can help him. Once in Paris, he meets Ren Manilon, a lawyer in front of Joe's. He tells Ren he is working a case against Jacques and wants to know if his friend has any information that could help him. Ren tells Joe everything he knows about Jacques, and he's also a pilot and is in the middle of a court case, suing an airline company after a crash, losing his left foot. Joe wants Ren to set up a meeting with Jacques as he will pose as an attorney and pilot, wishing to help him with the lawsuit, allowing Joe to get any information he can. They meet at the Le Talon Bloc Club, a place that dedicates war heroes. Ren handles the talking since Joe can't speak French and Jacques can't speak English either. After talking for hours, Joe has gained Jacques' trust but isn't getting anywhere near Aquitaine. When Joe gets an unexpected visit from Jacques at his hotel and reveals he does in fact speak English, Joe mentions the 3 other locations he's going to, which are the same places where the other members of Aquitaine are. Jacqueline notices this as Joe tells him he's working cases in those areas, which Jacques replies his company is interested in those areas. He invites Joe for a drink and wants to know about his true motives are. Joe lies that he's secretly working for a powerful company that deals with shipping weapons, ammo, and anything military forces need for a war, and reveals the past events Aquitaine was behind, stating his client is interested in working for them, but only if he'll agree to join his client's company. However, Jacques doesn't believe him and realizes Joe isn't who he claims to be. Knowing his cover is blown, Joe attempts to flee Paris. Jacques makes a call in his limo to his contact, reveals they know nothing of this man he's been speaking to, and is very suspicious of this man. Jacques tells him he'll send his men to capture him and bring him in for questioning. Joe gets his briefcase, then calls the front desk as he wants to pay for his bill, but wants a cab waiting out in the back rather than the front. As Joe goes to leave, Joe notices men standing at the front entrance of the hotel as he's seen them before. He recognizes them as he's seen them at the Talon Block. He goes through the wine cellar and into the alleyway, but a guard suddenly appears and attempts to stop him. Joe fights with the man using his briefcase by whacking into the guard's knee, then grabbing both of his shoulders and ramming his head into the brick wall, cracking his skull open as blood pours down the man's face. Joe quickly gets in a cab and goes to the airport, but changes his flight to Kursup, Denmark, then Hamburg, Germany to go after Erich Leifhelm. During the night, Ren is visited by police as they tell him a man under a false name has killed a person and was last seen in de Gaulle Airport. They also know he's been with him before the murder. Ren is shocked as he doesn't believe Joe would do this, but when he goes into his study to make a call to Larry in New York where Joe works, He finds out Joe has lied to him and Larry knew nothing about this case he's working on. Ren reveals the name of his friend to the police and states he was unaware of what Joe's true motives were. Before his flight to Germany, Joe notices a woman who's been watching him along with a man. However, they disappear and brushes off as a tourist. During the flight, Joe meets an actor, Carl Dowling, and strike up a friendly conversation and reading more information on Eric after getting off the plane and entering the airport. Joe suddenly spots the woman and man he spotted in Denmark. He quickly flees by going out the window in the men's room and goes into the parking lot, catching a taxi. But he waits till he sees the two people follow him as four others join them and get in a red Mercedes limousine. Joe pays the driver to follow them till they enter a U.S. embassy, which they can't enter. Joe then goes to a hotel that was bought ahead of time from Carl Downing, who later brings him his luggage. But he reveals that he's working secretly with Everly and tells him that a judge part of the council he works for in New York Anstead was killed last night. The next day, Joe meets Navy lawyer Connell Fitzpatrick, who wants to bring down Aquitaine. At first, Joe and Fitzpatrick don't get along, but agree to work together. However, Fitzpatrick gets a call from Carl that the German police are looking for him after getting a report from Interpol of a man he killed in Paris. Meanwhile, Delvain is also searching for Joe as he's got information that could expose Aquitaine and doesn't want world leaders finding out about it and wants Joe to be captured or killed and retrieve the documents in Joe's briefcase. They flee to a hotel that's away from the city. However, they are tracked down by Eric Leifhelm. He wants to talk with Joe and know why he's after them. They talk during dinner as Joe wants to meet the other men to interview them as he lies that he's interested in their views and Aquitaine. Eric agrees to arrange a meeting with the other men rather than flying to each country to find them. After Eric leaves the hotel, Joe wants Fitzpatrick to get support from the Defense and Justice Department so they can bring down Aquitaine, believing he'll get the evidence he'll need to take these men down. Fitzpatrick is skeptical about it but agrees to Joe's plan. Joe is taken to Eric's large mansion buried deep within a thick forest. Tall iron fence and gates block the outside world from this mansion with several Doberman dogs guarding it. There, Joe meets the other members of Aquitaine, Chaim Abrams, Van Jan Hederman, and Jock. Each man shares his views, thoughts, and ideas of how they wish to rule each part of their country along with reshaping anything they want to change or erase. Believing now he's got all the evidence against these men. However, Eric calls for a toast to their new friend and new world order. Joe is drugged as he quickly realizes the whole meeting was a trap, as the new Joe had no desire to join these men. Joe awakens inside a wooden cabin-like jailhouse that's outside of the mansion. Joe is visited by a guard as they bring in food, fresh water, and books to keep him comfortable as possible, but they want answers as Joe fears they'll kill him once they have no use for him. After 3 days of recovering from the drugs and walking around the mansion, Joe comes up with an escape plan. During the night, Joe lures a guard inside his jailhouse by flushing the toilet but leaving the door open. When the guard enters, Joe whacks him with a chair, killing him, then slamming the door shut as the Dobermans try breaking in. Using the dog whistle, Joe is able to get the Dobermans away from the cabin as he takes the guard's wallet, keyring, and pistol, then flees towards the gate. Guards are alerted when they see the dogs being in a place they aren't supposed to be and chases after Joe. He unlocks the gate and runs through the forest as the guards are shooting at him with the dogs coming after him. Joe runs across the river as a Doberman nearly gets him but quickly shoots in the head and keeps on running. After barely escaping through the thick forest and killing one of Eric's men and nearly drowning while swimming across the channel, Joe is able to flag down a car and get a ride to a hotel. He calls Larry explaining everything that's happened along with Aquitaine and the men who are hell-bent on taking over the world. Larry is skeptical but agrees to help Joe out. However, he informs Joe that both Interpol and German police are looking for him. And to make matters worse, he is framed for the murder of American ambassador Walter Peregrine. It's a race against time as Joe must stay alive and avoid capture if he and a few people he can trust to stop Aquitaine from conquering the world. Not only is the law enforcement after him, but so are the madmen of Aquitaine who will kill him and anyone else linked to Joe. At the same time, Aquitaine is assassinating high-ranking members within both government and military as they get ready to start World War III. Can Joe stop Mad Marcus Delavane and his New World Order, or is it too late? The Aquitaine Progression was a slow burn to get through. While it had a big cast of interesting and well-crafted and layered characters, many locations, and a few moments of action, along with gruesome violence, however, I was disappointed by the ending of this novel. While this novel is well written with good detail, but the slow pacing made it a chore to get through, and times when I was getting bored with it. Most, if all, characters spend most of the time making long distance phone calls, yelling at each other, or not doing much else. I felt there was too much drama in this novel or not enough action along with too much dialogue to read through. The villains were an interesting cast of characters but hardly do much and don't get to unleash their plans of world chaos and domination. And they are easily captured towards the end of this novel. Joe, the main character, I felt could be boring at times and not much else to like about him. His background is interesting, and towards the middle and ending, he displays his military skills, but doesn't offer anything else to his character. Kind of wish Ludlum had a different main character than what he created with Joe, and, and he also makes some bad choices that nearly cost him his life. And the main villain, Delvain, is hardly shown in the novel and felt there could have been more scenes of him along with the other villains within the story. Lastly, this novel is lacking action as I felt so many moments of violence, mayhem, destruction, and war could have been featured early on in the Aquitaine Propagation, as it would have made this novel way better in making the main character a ex-soldier or even a secret agent trying to stop an organization while facing off against each of these generals hell-bent on a new world order. If Ludlum wrote that instead, he would have had a better novel than this version. While this novel had its moments, but I was not satisfied with it and a bit stumped on why I picked this as one of my favorite novels by Robert Ludlum. Overall, I don't recommend the Aquitaine Propagation. It's a very long, slow, mostly boring thriller. There are way better action and thriller novels you can find that will offer you more action and keep you on the edge of your seat, as this novel fails to do any of that. And that is the review today. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, this was a huge letdown. I was expecting the ending to have like this big, grand, like, action or just like a moment that will keep me on the edge of my seat, and I didn't get any of that. The ending does have does offer like a little, like just like a little tease of what the what these guys are trying to do at the end, where the main villain is sitting in his wheelchair and he's like wearing this like red leather outfit, and he's like watching on TV screens all the chaos happening around the world. It's like, I did it, I finally did it. That was like, I felt like that part was great, but it would have been so much better if it happened sooner in the book than later. Just, oh my goodness, having to read all the pages of these characters running around, yelling at each other, making long distance phone calls, uh, too much moments of drama, and just not enough action to keep me satisfied. I was really bored with this book. The villains were, despicable, but they were very well crafted villains. They hardly do anything in this book. Like they just like stand around, just making long distance calls, yelling at other characters, and they don't do much. I thought, come on, you got these interesting villains, have them do something. Why they gotta wait so long to unleash their plan? Like, why the long wait? Oh man, and as I said, the one villain, the 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 Mad Marcus guy, he's not in the book that much, and one of the other members of Aquitaine, the Van Jan Hederman, he's barely shown in the book at all. I thought, why is Robert Ludlum always focusing on these other characters? Did he originally plan on doing it, but decided, nah, if I added him, it'll make this book wait even longer than it already is. I just felt the villains could have. I wish the villains could have been featured more, and the main character having to take them on would have been a lot better. Because at first Joe tries to bring them in, tries to bring them in with the power of law, of course, but that fails. And then at one point, Joe's wife gets involved in it, and he says to her that the only way to stop them is to kill these men, which he plans on killing them. But then towards the end of the book, he comes up with a plan how to capture three of the guys, and then has them testify in court and gets them to turn against each other. I thought it was a really dumb moment. And then of course they're brought back to their countries to either be sentenced to life imprisonment or executed for their crimes, and it was just so boring. I thought, come on. Oh, I was really bored with this book, and the number of mistakes that this Joe character makes. Like, There's parts where he gets on it, like he gets on a train, he gets on a train to get somewhere, and he's being followed, and he has to jump out of the train to escape from the Aquitaine forces and police. He does this two more times, and the exact same thing happens. Like, would it be better to drive just to again just take a car and just drive to your destination rather than taking a train where these men are waiting for you? It was just, oh, come on. Oh, and there were some parts where I had a kind of a hard time understand what was going on and where the characters were going, and I was just glad to be done with this book when I reached the final ending of this book. It was just, oh, it was I felt this book was way too long, and I wished Ludlum just went straight to the action and just keep going, and then when the characters like trying to stop these guys where they're unleashing chaos across the world, that would have been so much better. It's just I felt the Joe's character, like this lawyer character, was so boring. I thought what could have been a better character if he was like an ex-soldier, or you could have kept the fire pilot. Could have kept him as an ex-fire pilot, and he gets involved, and basically it's up to him to stop these guys. That would have been fine too. But the whole lawyer part, I was really bored with, and just a lot of political drama and other shit I really didn't like with this book. I was just really disappointed. Like I I really felt that this book could have been like so much better. Like they had so much opportunity, and Robert Ludlum just dropped the ball in it. So this one, I don't know why I picked this book as my favorite, but now it's my least favorite book by Robert Ludlum. It's not bad as Osterman Weekend, which was a terrible book, but it's still not good. It's just kind of it's went from my top favorite to now at the bottom. Um, I will have to definitely read the other Robert Ludlum books I enjoyed, like the ones that I know that are really good, and check out his other ones because this guy can write some really good stories. He and on every offer, is gonna have a home run every time with their books and write something good all the time. But he does have other ones, so that's yeah. So I wouldn't bother with this book. I wouldn't recommend this book at all. It's just a very long and just like a slow burn to get through. If you are curious about it, fine, but just be warned ahead of time. It takes quite a long time to get through this book, and not really much excitement happens to it. It does have a few interesting moments, but overall, just not a really good, not interesting book. All right, my next book I will be reading, Firestarter by Stephen King. I originally was going to read Salem's Lot, but that is after reading like two bricks, like Battlefield Earth was like 1,000 pages. The Aquitaine Progression was almost 700 pages. I don't want to read another book, so I picked this. It's this is much shorter, like I think average 300 pages. So that's good. My next book, and there we go. And I already got another series planned, so I'll be making a trailer and then reading that book too for part of my series I'll be doing. Alright, that is it for the book review today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I have an announcement to make. This week I am going on a short trip, so I am going to be going to Toronto, and I won't be back till next week. So when I get back from Toronto, I will begin with Firestarter, along with the book series I got planned. And I'm going to try to get in a graphic novel review too. That's something I want to get started this year. Do some graphic novel reviews, and definitely think of doing manga too. I know I have a lot of series, book series I'm planning, so I'm going to try to do one series at a time and carefully plan it out, so it's not like got too many books to read. But I definitely would like to get a lot of books read for this channel because in June is the upcoming book right, and I would definitely like to go to that as well. Yeah, so that's so that's my little announcement. I'll be gone for a little bit, but when I get back next week, I'll begin reading Firestarter and the art book I got planned as well. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group. Let's say name, please support share review fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.